Lally. And I will take roll call. President, Vice Chair Castaneda.
Here.
Commissioner Lally.
Here.
Commissioner Bessie.
Here.
Commissioner Marino.
Present.
Commissioner Wan. Here. Thank you. We've everybody with an agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Commissioner Reno, and can I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bessie, can I have a vote? Show of hands, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and council liaisons. We have no council liaisons. Eric, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just have a couple announcements. One is, the commission is probably aware of the council subcommittee on the committee, the commission reorganizations that have been occurring. It wasn't affecting the HRMC, but it did, they have been looking at other ones. I think in May 21st, there was a presentation and council passed some resolutions related to those other commissions. They're still looking at the Historic Resources Commission, so nothing is happening yet. There was a recommendation to reduce it to 5 commissioners eventually, but that's just a recommendation at this point. So if that were to go forward, or if there were any other changes proposed, that would be presented to council. And I think my understanding is they would ask the commission for input at that point.
I have a question. So, I served for more than 4 years. I thought my term is end, but I went on the website and noticed that my term is in the next year, June of next year, and Irene Montgomery is also. Are you term out yet?
My term is over in 2025. I don't know the date.
Okay.
You're in the same cycle.
Seems like okay.
And then the other item I just mentioned is that the City Clerk's office is doing some recruitments for some of the other commissions. I think the Senior Commission, Transportation Commission, and so if there's any folks that are interested, you can always direct them to the webpage there, and you've been through the process. But they're looking for.
Actually, I applied. Have you received my application?
I don't see them, so
Oh,
it should be
okay.
with the City Clerk.
Oh, I did.
So that information is available on the webpage. I think that's all I have for communication.
Do you want to briefly touch on any of the items that happened since our last meeting 2 months ago?
Sure.
I think there was just maybe one thing.
Yeah, so the Davis Community Church is a landmark resource, but there's a number of different buildings, of course, in that complex. And some years, maybe 10 years ago or so, there was certainly there was some changes made to the education or the office building and the kind of daycare building. And so as part of that process, they were also looking at retiling the administrative office building, which is facing the Central Park there. And that building was constructed in the 60s, I believe. Anyway, we did an administrative COA or design review just for that park because they were doing the same retiling of the roof, same materials that they'd used before. And so just wanted to notify you about that.
Thank you. I thought it was appropriate just to approve administratively to replace the non-historic resource files. But thank you for letting us know. At this time, we'll take some public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission on any matters which are not listed on the agenda or on the consent calendar. In person, speakers will mention more no more than 3 minutes, and I don't believe we received any written public comments for this evening. So come forth, please. We eagerly await your public comment. All right. Seeing none, we shall move on to the consent calendar. We have one consent item, which is the April 15th, 2024 minutes. If there is discussion, happy to have it, or revisions. Otherwise, happy to take a motion to approve the consent calendar. Anyone want to approve the minutes?
I have a question about the regular item. Because I found this.
Hold on, Commissioner Wan, you have a question about one of the items on the agenda or the consent calendar, which is the minutes from April?
Oh, okay, that's.
Okay. Okay, so Commissioner Lally, made a motion. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Castaneda seconds. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now to the regular items. We have our museum report. Marilee,
Yes.
you will provide the museum report. Thank you very much.
Yes, since our last report, we've been contacted by several community members who are working on individual historical projects. The owner of the D Street apartment building located on the former site of the Jesus Pena house is making a video about Narcisa Pena, who was the house's last resident before its demolition. He asked to see our Pena family materials, which include family documents and photographs. The video will be accessible through a QR code posted on his monument to the Penas, which is located at the front of the building. Shortly afterward, Davis historian John Laughlin contacted us about our hotel registers. He has recently discovered that Jack London and his second wife, Charmian, visited Davis in February of 1913. The reason for their trip was to purchase livestock for their Glen Ellen Ranch, and they found the animals they wanted at both the Glide Ranch and the University Farm. John had run across a Jack London letter describing their trip, which mentioned that they stayed at a Davis hotel. He remembered several years ago seeing a hotel register, which was in fact at the Hunts Hotel, in an exhibit at the Hattie Weber, and wanted to see if he could find London's signature in it. We located the Hunts register and also two others, but unfortunately none of them contained the correct date for the signature. Also, regarding our exhibit, Davis Bus to Alabama, 1965, a friend of Gerald Friedberg, who was the UC Davis professor who took photos of the group's participation in the Voting Rights March into Montgomery, asked us for help in choosing materials for an online archive. Moving on then, we're continuing to revise some of our older permanent exhibits, most recently on the Davis Public Library and the Davis Schools. We've added a small desk saved from the demolition of Davis Elementary School, which we put in front of the school exhibit, and are inviting children of the right size to try it out. It's just such a tiny desk. It's too small for a kindergarten, it seems. We're also looking forward to updating our temporary exhibit, Davis Olympians, as new athletes from the town of University succeed in joining the 2024 Summer Olympics teams. Regarding the situation of individuals camping next to the WPA storage building, which we mentioned a couple of occasions before, we're now in contact with one of the police officers who's assigned to this problem from the Davis Police Department. The result has been that tents have been taken down. Unfortunately, however, new ones quickly appear. We were able to paint over graffiti on one of the WPA building walls during a brief open period when we could get in there to paint. And we were hoping to have the area cleared again soon, as we need to get estimates for a new roof. And we'd also like to arrange for a sign to be installed outside the building, providing the information that it is the only WPA-built one in Davis, and that the WPA also did most of the work of constructing Central Park. There is an original WPA plaque dated 1937 on the building's center wall. If possible, we'd like the sign to match others designating historic landmarks in the city. For instance, the one on the Davis Community Church. Your suggestions for going about this would be much appreciated, and I realize that this isn't an item on the agenda, but perhaps we could put it on the agenda for next time, or if anyone that has any short suggestions. Visitor counts for May and June are May 4th, we were closed for the winter's dedication of the Japantown Memorial. We had 61 on May 11th, 46 visitors on May 18th, 84 on May 25th, 72 on June 1st, 59 on June 8th, and 63 on June 15th. Thank you. Concludes the report.
Thank you. Any questions on the informational report? Okay, well, I appreciate it. Sounds like you had a good visitor count. All right, another regular item, this is really our last regular item here, which is the Downtown Davis Historic Inventory, and I will let Eric lead this on. Please give us the information.
Thank you.
May I talk about before that? I want to share something I found from my collection. And this is Davis Downtown and the Traditional Residential Neighborhoods Design Guide. And there's a resolution in 2001. The whole downtown is designated as a historical district. And I kind of feel, now you are taking just a few building out and pretending the whole historical district is not existed. You're doing everything over again. And I also have a question about this company worked with DAPA, and is that arranged company who's working with that company? So where's the budget come from? So I want to, what I'm saying is, my name is Mingwan, okay, because the people pretending to be me, and I'm granddaughter of lots of Chinese New. I'm the owner of a farm called Ningwan Solar. So I want to make sure, Aaron Montgomery do not pretending to be Ningwan and do not sign Ningwan's name, okay? And I am Ningwan. And I want to share that with you is downtown has been designated. I should make a copy of this. I think I'm passing,
So, Commissioner, I do have that information.
Yeah, but what you are doing is, the whole district is designated, and then you pretending it does not exist, and make a list of 5-6 houses that's it was it. So who are those people?
We are reviewing the evaluation, so we'll start.
Which means you ignored the historical documents, and the design guide is right here. 2001, and everybody knows. I don't know how long have you lived in things. It's there, and then you not only you redo it, you ignored the designation by the previous, city councils.
Okay, thank you. I just have a brief presentation, sort of intro, background. We also have Becky Urbano from Environmental Science Associates. Her firm did the evaluations, and so she could present a little bit more on some of the findings and some of those details. But I just wanted to just provide a brief overview. We're happy to be presenting these DPR forms, the evaluation forms. This has been an ongoing effort to survey the downtown, and while we have not been able to cover all of the properties, we've been able to do quite a few of them over the last few years in these couple of different phases that they've occurred. And previously, the Commission reviewed the first 2 sets from 2019 and 2022, and sort of accepted those. There were a couple that they identified needing a little more discussion, and then those were presented to the City Council, and they accepted it into the city's inventory based on the Commission's recommendation. And so that's really what we're looking at for tonight. So for tonight, we've got surveys that were done in 2023 and 2024. There's 49 total done by Environmental Science Associates. There's also an additional historic resources analysis and forms prepared for 724 and 730 G Street. And those were commissioned by the property owner, so it was done separately.
I do have a question. Where was the budget for redo all this?
Let me finish, and then we can get to some questions. Thank you. The majority of some of the surveys some of them were updates to existing surveys, and then there were a number of new surveys because, of course, as time passes, more properties become age eligible. Some of them that were initially looked at were found to be not age eligible because of changes or demolitions, things like that. but the one being presented to you tonight, kind of underwent that more detailed analysis and research. The majority of them were found not to be recommended as eligible for potential designation. And then there were 5 properties, so 5 of them that are listed here: 222D, 304F, 305E, 325E, and 414E, where it was found they met the eligibility criteria for either like a local designation as a merit resource, or in 1 or 2 cases as potential landmark, and even California register. And so that's why these are called out. And the commission has a couple options in reviewing them. Certainly, you can find them adequate and accept the conclusions and those findings that they're recommended as eligible. You're not taking any action to designate it. You're not at that stage or that level. If that were to occur, that's a whole process, hearings, property owners will be contacted, and there will be a recommendation. It's outlined in your ordinance. But again, this is informational. We've got the documents. There's the research there. That's for you. The commission could also find that they would recommend that they not be designated, more actively in that way. So previously, at the previous commission, when they reviewed the other sets of surveys, did identify some of those properties and determined that even though they were potentially eligible, that due to various reasons, whether that those minimal traditional buildings, we found were not worthy or deemed significant enough to be necessary to designate, and so essentially kind of made that determination. But in any case, whatever this commission's recommendation is, we'll kind of bring that along to the city council, so for them to review and accept those surveys and their recommendations. So that's what we're recommending tonight, that you review them, find them acceptable. If you have any comments particularly related to those identified as eligible, we'd love to hear that. If there's any rationale that you have for potentially not finding them eligible, we would need that described and that articulated. And then the next step after that would be to bring a resolution to City Council presenting them with these surveys and your determination. I think that sort of basically summarizing the report, kind of what's in there. The report does identify those 5 properties and pulls out the information from the summary memo that ESA provided, so that's also attached to the staff report and provides a little more detail there as well. And I guess with that, I'll kind of stop there unless you have any questions, and then I would like to hear from Becky.
I have a quick question for you. There's 5 listed, but there's 6 listed in the memo. Was there a reason why 512 Fifth Street was pulled out?
So that one was included in the memo because that was reviewed, or was
It was when we talked
surveyed
about
by,
like a year and a half
but
ago.
it was covered before,
Okay.
right?
That's what
so,
I thought, and we did not, we accepted that survey,
right, but
but we disagreed with its eligibility.
there was at least questions, and
Yeah,
it was identified as needing a little more discussion, and so the rationale for that property, I would say, or I should point out, was the same as, or similar as what was identified for 414E, because that also had that social service connection.
Is the 512 D Street owned by the city?
512D is, yes.
D, yes, okay, that's what I
Or
thought.
512 fifth.
D.
Fifth.
Yeah, it's fair.
D.
Okay, 5th, sorry, 5th, I wrote down D, but yeah, 5th. It's just a hard thing to say for some reason, yeah. It's owned by the city.
Yes.
Has a social, yes, okay, I remember this now, thank you.
I have a question, where you can find all this information, because I'm looking for information, about the property belongs to my family. I told you, the Chinese Empire's family, and the family is covered in one sole prop. I believe many of these you listed property belongs to me one sole prop, and the Xiangdongzu actually has the information. And Xiangdongzu is the real President Trump. Xiangdongzu is Elon Musk.
I think, Becky can explain a little bit the protocol and kind of process, the methodology.
I do want to just address that, without, how should I put this together? So I don't feel, this committee has focused on the historical resources management. And I noticed, I drive around the city, there's so many projects we don't even know. And the downtown has been designated, since 2001. And I don't know what's his name, he looks like Joe Coboza, because Joe was my co-worker. And at that time, I know city did a lot of work to designate the downtown as the whole district. So I don't understand why Irene Montgomery or you, both of you just kind of brought back and decided, pretending it has never designated, and then pick up a field. And I do have, opinion about this committee and what is the goal. And I want to know the background, the company called, did DARPA,
Well, okay,
what kind of
okay.
connection
Commissioner
with
Wong?
Irene Montgomery or you? And Irene Montgomery, are you Jing Shaw?
Do we need to take a recess, Commissioner Wong, or can you maybe turn it down a little bit?
Okay,
Those are historic properties designated. These are properties that were not surveyed before and would not have been included in
No,
there.
those are all downtown, it's included.
I understand that they're downtown, but they were not designated and done a DPR form on them. So we're
Yeah,
asked to review the
it's
DPR
a
forms.
district, designated as a whole district.
It's actually a residential overlay zone. Yes, okay. Mr. Bono, would you like to share anything about the surveys with us?
No, I guess just perhaps a little more background. So one of the reasons that we were asked to take a look at these properties is some of them did have some prior documentation. However, the documentation was incomplete. So what we did is we took a look, the first part of this process back when we got involved in 2022 was to take a look at the documentation for the downtown properties and to assess how many of those properties had been evaluated as individual properties, as individual historic resources outside of their contribution to a district. And the documentation in some cases was only to National Register level, or in some cases it was only to California. And in many cases it didn't have any information about individual local designation. So one of the first steps for this process was for us to identify what were the properties that had incomplete documentation and incomplete analysis. And then those were weighed against what properties were potentially under greatest development threat to prioritize, because we couldn't address every property in the downtown. So the focus was on those properties that were perhaps under the greatest pressure for potential redevelopment. And the goal was to provide the city with adequate documentation to either clear the properties for development or to help guide redevelopment of the properties, whether that is for design review or for additions or other changes as well. So that's the basic impetus. And as you can see, some of the properties we looked at were not age eligible. They did not meet the 50-year threshold in 2001. So there were also updates. And there have been ongoing updates since then. Most of our work relied on the 2015 historic context that was done for the city. So that was very, very helpful to help us sort through the buckets of where these properties might have historical significance. And then beyond that, we concentrated on doing research through, we did permit research at the city to take a look at what alterations have been done to these properties, and also through local newspaper research. And those were really our primary sources because we already had the historic context for the city. So we really focused on what were the individual things we could find out about the property in terms of ownership and changes over time. And so after looking at 86 properties, I believe is the total, 86 over the last couple of years, we have the recommendations in front of you. And again, these are recommendations for you to consider. None of this is binding.
Yeah, Ningman so proud to not pay for any fee of this, to not support this project. Ningman.
All right, do we have any discussion on our purview, the recommendation, which is to number one, review the forms to determine if they're considered eligible as listed, and then the remaining survey properties as ineligible, and then find the evaluation forms acceptable for inclusion in the city's cultural resources inventory. So we have three items on our review of this. 49 downtown properties for the 2023 and 2024 downtown historical survey conducted by Environmental Science Associates. So how about I'll take any questions or comments?
Yeah, the question I do have a question is,
Hold it up there.
it's already
When you
designated.
hold it up there so we can see it.
Yeah, so this is, July 2001, updated through 2007. It says downtown Davis has been designated, and it even has this whole book for these, design guidelines. Obviously, you are way behind what they have done. The whole downtown development has guidelines. And so I just feel whatever that company has done is contradictory with previous city has decided, and I don't even think city should pay. Who will pay? New one will not pay for you.
Well, I would clarify that there have been modifications to that since, and
Since the pandemic, and the people
and-
are not
and- and for the
into
boundaries,
room,
so it does not
and
apply to the
I
downtown.
realize it's after the pandemic, and the whole, this committee, Historical Resources Management Committee wasn't active, and there are so many projects going on around downtown, and there are so many, historical building has been destroyed. For example, the Davis Community Church, the whole roof was taken away, and Davis City Hall, and a lot of downtown buildings roof has been taken away. And I want that, those roofs, those red tiles on the roof are antiques. In China's, black market, it can sell to millions of dollars.
Commissioner Wong, do you have
been-
any questions on the properties that were surveyed that we are asked to look at?
So
Did
what
you review them on the?
I did. So what I think is, you are doing the backwards job. The design guide is already here, and the downtown has been designated. And why? It's because some people want to, develop, or some people, want to make money, or some Chinese CCP spies, they want to. I notice, the communists coming to our city, and they just take the house away. They can move the house.
So you don't have any questions on the survey?
My question is why, it has been designated, why
It's
you,
a design
why
guideline versus a survey form. So you have any questions on the survey forms itself?
I don't
Okay,
have the,
Commissioner
for
Lawley, do you
itself.
have any? I'm good. Okay. Commissioner Castaneda?
I just wanted to clarify, so when we're talking about just the consideration of them being eligible, so I don't have any reason or I don't have any rationale as to why we would remove certain ones. So is there any consequences for putting them on the eligibility list? So in other words,
I want, what I'm sorry, saying,
Let them finish, please. Thank you.
But
so
the
I know
question
that we're not
is-
designating them, we're just saying that they could be eligible, so I just want to know.
Right, they could be eligible, and so if there were, like either the property owner or in some cases, I guess potentially the city could initiate a designation, for a site, then this,
So,
we
So
did
we're
our
just
first
saying at
step
some
in
point
that.
that could happen, but they're not necessarily bound to anything at this point.
Right, and even at
Okay.
that point, there could be information that comes
So
out
I
that you
want
might
to,
find it not eligible or decide not to recommend designating, it can go either
Got it.
both ways.
I think I'm more than 4 years, I'm 6 years on this committee. And, I think, all the volunteers, well, all volunteers, they don't know the history about the downtown. But you should know better, the guideline, usually you identify and then you develop a guideline. And we have the guideline and the downtown as a whole has designated, and now you're saying it's not. And I don't know what credibility about that company. Do you have experience with the historical, reserve? Or,
Commissioner-
and how much money
Commissioner-
you get from the city? Are you CCP? Are you Sharon War?
Do we need a recess? Can we keep to the topic at hand, which is not the design guidelines, which is the surveys that were asked to be reviewed and accept?
And I don't even know when were you elected as the chair,
You were at the meeting. Okay.
I have been at the meeting every time.
No questions, Mr.
Are
Lawley?
you 小家油？你是不是就是个俄共间谍？
Recess. When you're ready to continue, we will continue. Back to new these all together or separately?
I move to accept them all together.
You move to determine they should be considered eligible as recommended in the evaluation forms. You find that the remaining surveyed properties are ineligible, and you find the evaluation forms acceptable for inclusion in the city's cultural resources survey?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Okay.
I'll give it to Commissioner Butzey. All those in favor say aye. Or raise your hand, aye. Opposed? Abstain? You're opposed, okay. Motion passes. We shall, if necessary, move these forward for consideration at a later meeting after more discussion. Yes, and now we're going to the G Street. Yeah, you were number 2, sorry. So now we've been asked to review the historical resource analysis and DPR evaluation form prepared by Historic Resource Associates for 724 and 730 G Street, which recommend, as listed in the agenda, are eligible, but as listed in the report are not. So we'll have to move this carefully forward in our wording.
Yeah, if I could just correct, that was a mistake or typo. The form did not recommend it as eligible. Recommended it was not eligible because I'm not missing.
Should we move to amend the agenda?
I'm
Would you like us to
looking at
move
the
it?
agenda.
Just a
to make it
minute, which
eligible.
item are we on?
Number 2.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hold on a second. I think that there's something wrong with the wording of the form, right, of the agenda item, so we're addressing that. Is there your question about the?
Item 2, yeah.
Are your question about the wording of the
It's
agenda?
not wording, it's about the actual property.
Okay, we're working on the wording right now, then we'll get to the
Okay,
actual
sure.
meat of it. Okay, so Commissioner Reno
I
has some,
move to amend the agenda to be in line with the report.
seconds.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Lale, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now we will review number 2, which recommends that the properties are not eligible for designation and not eligible for inclusion.
So I have a
Yes.
question about
Yes,
the
you have
structure.
some, yes, Commissioner
So,
Wong.
yeah, because I live in Davis for a very long time, I know, like we call co-op, we call, 8th Street co-op, and how come 720 is way, the other way, so the street has shifting or something like that, where's that house coming from? I mean, I drive that route, I go to the Chinese restaurant very often, and it's kind of that house, it's totally changed. So could you tell me a little bit about the history about this 720G and what is it, 24G and 730G? The structure and when it was built, because it's kind of for me, it's totally changed. I don't know how do you.
Well, what I would suggest is the information is in the report, in the survey that was done. So that's much more detailed.
Oh, may I have a copy and I can return to you? Your survey, is that your survey?
I have a couple, but I did not print out that one, so I don't have a copy of that, unfortunately.
Could you send the link to me?
I'll send you
because
the
what I'm saying is, I don't know about your eyes. I noticed, the city's houses just changed dramatically, and I didn't notice any, construction. Have you aware of that?
So I think that's what this report is saying, is that over time it's changed so much that it's no longer worthy of historic designation by
It's
any
not
of the
over
measures.
time, I'm saying, just during the pandemic.
No, this is since 1970, it's changed over decades.
Thank you. Eric, did you have anything in particular you wanted to present about this? I skipped that, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Not specifically. Thank you for catching my mistake on all that. But no, other than the survey and the report was very detailed. It was provided by Dana Supernowitz, or prepared by Dana Supernowitz, his firm, and he's done many before for the city or for properties and projects. So he's familiar with our requirements and did a lot of research and looked at those 2 properties and found that they were not eligible because of the changes and the nature of it. So that's really all I wanted to mention.
All you have any questions or comments on that report? Very thorough. Commissioner Castellanos?
No more questions.
I also did not have any questions. I apparently did not read the agenda very carefully, so thank you for catching that. So I will take any public comments. We have heard your previous public comment. We'll apply it to this one unless you have more to add.
No, I just support the report.
Thank you. Yes. Any other public comments? Any discussion? All right, I will take a motion to accept the report with the recommendation that properties are not eligible.
So moved.
Maria, second. Come on, someone second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Object. Motion carries. Eric, do we need to then look at number 3, or was that sort of a remainder?
It's more informational in that way
Okay.
as far as the process, then it'll go forward to the city council with your recommendations.
Okay. Moving on to item 7, subcommittee and liaison assignment updates. We have one ad hoc subcommittee, which is the WQ markings. We got a very thorough presentation the last time. I don't know if there's any update to that at this meeting.
No, just that we're going to be meeting with Eric in Public Works.
Oh, okay.
But we will update you when we have an update.
Yes.
Okay.
That's been in my court for a bit and trying to set up that meeting with Public Works, but it looks like we're getting there in a couple weeks. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
I have a question that was an old ad hoc subcommittee, but whatever happened with the College Park design guidelines?
That's
We
still
need
hanging
a
out
meeting
there.
subcommittee on that?
We might move it forward, although I think at last point it was in the city's hands. It had been
But it
reviewed.
has been there for
and
like
it has
3
been there,
years.
yes.
Okay, just a reminder about that, okay. And then we know the subcommittees, the long range calendar, July 15th is our next scheduled meeting.
Can I add a little bit on item 7?
You have a ad hoc subcommittee to discuss?
Yes, what I found out is in my street, Loyola Drive, and a lot of things, W and R, yeah. So I want to, a W and S. I want to know if that's the sewer and the water. Obvious, the
The sidewalk markings?
yeah, a lot.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the sewer is not there anymore, so I want to know, since when the city actually closed the sewer? Because, when the water going through from my house, I have to actually sweep all the way like 5 houses.
I think that's a great question for Public Works.
No, but the markers, then I want to
Yes,
know.
the markers also belong to Public Works, so I cannot tell you anything on that one.
I saw,
No,
the
sorry.
museum is public, but anyway.
July 15th is our next scheduled meeting. I think I am here for that. Let's check. I know it's summer vacation season for people. I will be back, yes, so there's.
And right
It may not
now,
happen if we don't have agenda items?
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
right now there's nothing specific that I'm aware of to schedule, so it's likely to be canceled.
Okay, because we have a quorum of 5, so it is important to.
Yeah, so I want to know if I want to,
Oh, quorum of 4, sorry.
Yeah.
if I have something I can just submit to you and then we can have.
Yeah,
a meeting,
yeah.
right? Okay, that's good because, I don't want to. And I want to make sure, the communication between you and me is actually, I know the hackers, hacking me and,
But sorry, for the commissioners, so I think the July meeting is likely to be canceled.
Okay, thank you
There's
for
nothing
that.
you're expecting unless.
We usually get recess in August typically, but yes, if there's something to discuss, we're happy to.
But-
Okay, I
have
will,
one more question.
yes.
So do you think that, the roof, like the downtown roof or the city hall roof, are these all concerned or not? They just get rid of the antique. I understand that's antique roofs that they're just taking away. Is that historical committee, us, all concerned or not?
I think that's not part of the agenda, but we can discuss that, or I can look into that.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk about it at July's meeting.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Marino, second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.